Yeah.
I thought about picking it up and giving it to you, but I didn't know if like, you wanted to, be creatively finding your own.
All my content's original. Mm-hmm. No, it's not. It's originally found on the internet.
You just found a better way to say it.
And that's the first joke of the morning.
Good? Everyone good? All right.
Good.
Here we go. Hang on. Make sure I say the right name of this podcast this time. Yeah, okay. One way we can glorify God is often overlooked. This additional way to glorify God is the key to understanding why God made the world the way he did. It is also the key to understanding why God gave us the moral commands he did. And it is the key to understanding why human beings have an instinctive drive to work, to be productive, to invent, to earn, and save and give, and to do the thousands of specific activities that fill our days. This additional way to glorify God is imitation of the attributes of God. Welcome to the 17:6 podcast, where we help you turn the world upside down by the lordship of Christ. I'm Trevor.
I'm Caleb.
And I'm Zach.
All right, and we have a guest with us today. Who are you? What do you do?
I am Arlan Campbell, and I work with a bunch of incredible men in our little town, and we manufacture metal buildings.
Awesome. Well, we're excited to have you on.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about you. I just met you this morning, but it is definitely an honor. It's awesome.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. So some great things has happened to me this past 2 weeks, because it's been like 2 weeks since we've actually filmed a podcast, though our audience may not know that.
No.
They will not see that gap. But my oldest son knows how to wipe himself now.
Oh, praise the Lord.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
Good 2 weeks.
It's been a fantastic
That's
2 weeks.
so good.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Big accomplishments.
So
Then they dug a hole in the backyard, and now they pee in the hole.
It's a guy thing.
Yeah.
it is, yeah. So something crazy that happened to me the last 2 weeks. I was at the house digging around and found a lion in my closet.
A lion.
A lion. You believe that?
No, I don't believe
Trevor
that.
doesn't believe that.
I don't believe that.
I asked him what he was doing in there. He said, "It's Narnia your business."
Very good. Yeah. Very good.
That was,
I got a couple of laughs.
yeah, I always like your dad jokes, but I like that one in particular.
Do you? Okay.
That's my favorite one so far.
Nice.
Narnia your business.
That's good. All right, so I work with Arlan, and I've really appreciated working at Steel Tech just because of the impact that it's had on my life, which is why we have you here today. And we have Caleb, who's going to ask some questions to kind of get the conversation going.
Yeah. What is the main topic you have today? Do we have an overarching theme of this?
So Zach kind of sent me some guidance because I wasn't 100% sure where he wanted to head with this, but I think it's discipling through business, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of the direction that I took some of the questions. Not all of them, but yeah.
It's awesome. So if you want to go ahead and start asking the questions, we'll just jump into it and see where the conversation goes.
Sounds good. Okay. So you said you own a steel
correct.
building manufacturing
Yes.
company in town here. So what made you decide to start that company, other than, the opportunity to provide well for your family?
Sure. Well, it was much more than that, but let me say first, it's just an incredible honor to hang out with men who intentionally choose to do hard things. And I've known this guy for a long time, and I've watched him do that. And it truly is an honor to get to hang out with men who look at hard things and says, I got it. That's mine. And I've seen that in Zach. And that's what authentic godly men do. So therein lies the root of why I wanted to do something other than just run a business. I had a business that I was attempting to run. I didn't go to school to do this, other than the school of experience and failure. But I was a general contractor, and I wanted to do something that would impact men. And that really came from maybe my childhood and some wounds that I had from my dad. I've told that story a time or two, and ended up having a great relationship with my dad later on, but I had to learn to walk into some forgiveness as a young man. And if I hadn't have, I would have been crippled. So a big part of that turning point in my life was a thing called men's fraternity, a guy named Robert Lewis. And it was a group of men, a small group of men at our church, that really discipled me into being a man that, more of the man that God wanted me to be. And I'll forever be grateful for that, because during that time in my life, I got to see more of who I am without that deep relationship with Christ. And it wasn't pretty. So what I really wanted to do is really go back to that experience in the garden. And I know that that's only going to happen in heaven. It's not going to happen here. But during that study of the early part of Genesis, I realized that work was created. God gave Adam a job to do before the fall.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Work is not part of the curse.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
The toil and the drudgery and all of the negative part of work is, but work was originally intended to be worship. God gave Adam a job to do and a purpose to fulfill. And he did that through taking care of the creation. I don't know what all that looked like, but I'm sure it wasn't easy. And I think now, work should be more than just earning a paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
It should be worship.
Yeah.
So I feel like I'm not positive what heaven will be like, but I'm not positive that work's not going to be part of it. Because I think it was original part of the plan that God had. And who knows, we may be worshiping him through work, but I'm sure it won't be like it feels today. I don't know. That's just my thought. I love work. So
Yeah, absolutely.
awesome.
Yeah, it's that kind of coming from that quote that I read at the beginning by in Business to the Glory of God by Grudem. That's just an attribute that God, we're just reflecting his attribute. God works. We create. We're sub-creators, I guess. We create the things God has given for us to create with. That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, that's the whole thing with us being image bearers is he is spirit, right?
Yeah.
And he created a material world, but he created a material world with people on this world who are going to be his image in this world.
Yeah.
And like that quote says, all the attributes that he has, well, be careful there theologically.
Exactly.
But the vast majority of the attributes that he has, we are going to be replicating that in the material world. And part of that is he's a creator. Therefore, we are, like you said, sub-creators.
Yes.
Yeah, and he's gifted men to do that, mankind to do that. He made us in his image, so we're supposed to go do stuff with the talents that we have.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of joy in that.
Sure.
I find a ton of joy accomplishing projects within my own business. So I think, you're right on. I agree with you 100% on that.
So that was really, that was really the reason I wanted to do that. It was to be able to speak into young men's lives and hopefully have an impact that had more than just projects and buildings. The purpose of making money, I had heard that my whole life, even through some conservative talk shows, the purpose of business, and I'm a conservative, but the purpose of business is to make money. Well, obviously businesses have to make money, and I'm a capitalist, but if that becomes our sole purpose, we lose the gold. You can be chasing money and miss the blessing. So being able to speak into young men's lives was that was really the reason. The reality is most of us can figure out how to make a living doing almost anything. We really can. Yeah. If we want to choose to do hard things. But that's really the reason. I just wanted to spend time with men.
some things that I observe. I know nothing of Steel Tech except for the people that work for you that I know. So Zach, and there's a few other guys that go to church that work at Steel Tech. The one thing that you have done is you've captivated them. You've created a culture at work that they love going into work. And I think that's kind of reflected what you just said. But what are some thoughts on how to do that? So as a business owner myself, I desire to be an employer here in Monette, eventually, Lord willing. And I want to create that same culture. I want them to love coming into work. Though they don't own the business, they're a part of something bigger than they are.
Yeah, I would say that, first of all, you have to be doing it for the right reasons. If you are somebody that you wouldn't work for yourself, don't expect anybody else to want to follow you. I remember years ago, there was another business guy that, this is before Steel Tech, but when I was doing construction work, there's another business guy that he said, how do you get all these good people? And he goes, I can't find any of them. And he had a good sized business. And I just looked at him and I said, Tom, would you work for you? And he just kind of grinned. He goes, no. I go, well, why in the world would you expect anybody else to work for you? So be the person that just cut to the chase. Be Christ-like. Love people well. Don't have any kind of bigotry of low expectations out of people. When you look at somebody, recognize that God has gifted them. They may not be in the ways that you need, but he's gifted them with something. And we as leaders, if we can figure out a way to pull that out of them, we're going to bless them, whether they work for us or not. We're going to bless our community, because there's a lot of hidden jewels that Satan has covered up in people's lives. And if we see ourselves more than just an employer, if we see ourselves as somebody who mines jewels out of others' lives,
Okay.
they will be able to take those and use them, and they might just work for you. So there's no secret sauce other than just truly care about people.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I don't want to take away from your question, so go ahead. You if you want to move on, you can.
So, you're, from what I understand, you're a very successful business owner. What are some of the struggles, like early on, that you had?
Yeah, it was when I started Steel Tech. Before that, I'd been a general contractor, and then any business I've started, this is really the third. But it's hard, and I think it was real hard. The first 3 or 4 years, my net worth went down about $400,000. So I have a degree in stupid. It's an expensive degree. I shouldn't say stupid. I have a degree in experience. And so just being able to get up every day knowing that you don't know what you're doing. I recommend that you get as much knowledge about the topic as you possibly can, and you educate yourself, and you make sure that. But the reality is starting a small business, unless you've already have some capital, and I did, but I burnt through it, burnt through some of it. So one of my biggest challenges was just not knowing what I was doing. I came from a construction industry to manufacturing, just totally different. It was deceptively similar.
Yeah.
Enough to make somebody like me think, yeah, I can do that.
Yeah.
But there's a reason why it was successful, and it's not because of to whatever success it is. There's a reason for that, and it's not because of my intellect. It's not because of my business acumen. None of that. There's two things. It's God's blessings and my purpose to do something more than make money.
So how do you get away as you're growing as a business owner? You're going through these hard things, and you're seeing the Lord bless you. What is your way to to keep your mind off of focusing on money, to keep it on the main goal?
Yeah. Well, just make sure your relationship with Christ is healthy. And I really mean this. What you all have here, the brotherhood of other men around you, we're not created to do this alone. Make sure you have other people around you that will keep you grounded. And the other thing is money can be the focus, whether you're making it or not. I mean, whether you appear to be making money. I'll just say this too: is what may appear doesn't mean it's always reality. So just when you see a business owner doesn't mean they're successful. What does success mean? And that's what you have to be really focused on. To be very poignant about your question, how do you keep your focus off of money, is you have to recognize that it's a tool.
Okay.
And it is a resource that God has given you to manage. It's not yours. So you have to really believe that.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's a really good perspective to have. It's not yours. It's a tool. So it's awesome.
Yeah. I think that, so you had other businesses that failed, or just failures in general, starting your...
Yeah, I wouldn't say they failed. I was able to do well at them. And if I'd have known then what I know now, I enjoy what I'm doing now more, because I get to be more one-on-one with people. But they were successful from a financial standpoint.
Okay.
It wasn't that. It was, I was thinking about going to school to be an environmental engineer. So I started that with a 2-year degree in microbiology. And then I found myself realizing that I was either going to be in compliance or enforcement, to have something to do with the environment. And I love microbiology, but I'm not suited for that level of detail. So there was a process. The Lord protected me from going down that, because I would have been miserable. So it wasn't about a failure. It was just really going through that men's fraternity and hanging out with other men that really called me up to a different level. And some of the wounds and the paths of my childhood and finding healing in that, I really wanted to share with other men. So it wasn't about leaving something. It was about going to something. But had I known what I know now, I could have, you can take God's plan and make it work anywhere that he chooses to bless you with. So,
yeah. So what is, and maybe you've already said it and I just missed it, what is your definition of success for your business, Steel Tech?
Yeah, to honor God in everything that you do. And obviously you're not going to be able to continue to play that game unless there's resources. So I think we honor God. A book I read years ago by Rabbi Daniel Lapin, Thou Shalt Prosper, really helps me focus on God intended for us to be excellent with what we do. He didn't create messes. That only happened after sin entered the world.
Yeah.
So it's about excellence and doing things right and having a long-term difference in people's lives. Well, I can drive around and look at all kinds of buildings that we've had hands in, and they're really cool and they're a lot of fun. But at the end of the day, all that's going to melt. And what will last is truly what's done in people's hearts.
Yeah. It's awesome.
So what opportunities have you had owning a business to disciple people?
Oh, I like to say that, my pastor may get people for an hour or two a week and we get them for 40. So I think it's more than just, I think God uses all of the areas of our life if we're obedient to them, because what somebody, maybe a non-believer or somebody who's struggling will get to see at work is different than they'll get to see when they're just hanging out.
Yeah.
They get to see me struggle. They get to see me fail. They get to see how I respond to that. And if my life is Christ-focused, Christ-centered, they'll get to see that. So I'm not, putting any other ministry down. But man, if we see our whole life as a ministry, everything we touch is to glorify God and to advance the kingdom, then our work certainly has to be part of that. And you just get a special opportunity to get close to people. So not only do they get to see you and get to see you when you are successful or when you fail or anywhere in between, we get to be part of their lives. We get to be able to really know them. And as our business has grown, I've had the joy and the privilege of being able to watch other people do that better than I could ever do. Zach is one of those guys that can take that one-to-one relationship and really get to know somebody and to call them to a different place. And that's where the gold is, because we get to see them when they're winning, and we get to cheer them when they're winning, when they're successful, when they do something hard, when they go and they look at themselves and they say, I can go love my wife. I can go love my children. I don't have to go hang out somewhere at night. It's not with my family. You get to cheer them on. And when they're struggling, you know them and you can be there with them. So that is the ministry that's the opportunity that thinking of our work as a ministry provides. So to me, it's if I didn't have that, if it was just building a business, I'd have quit a long time ago. It's not worth it.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's great to hear.
Real quick. So obviously I have the insider scoop on this, but how intentional does discipleship look in a business context? Because you spoke a lot about modeling out Christ-like behavior, but how intentional is it?
Well, I'm going to speak for myself. I wish it was more intentional. I don't think I will ever not say that because no matter what level of intentionality, I think there's more. So it has to be very intentional or it won't happen. But no matter how intentional it is, it'll never feel like enough because we're dealing with people's souls. And we're dealing with they're going to come to us with, financial issues, with marriage issues, with relationship issues, sometimes with health issues and financial issues and car problems and neighbor problems. And if we're not intentional, it's going to be really, really easy just to become a boss and expect production and ignore the whole purpose. So if you're not intentional, if that's not the main thing, you don't keep the main thing, the main thing, you're going to find yourself slipping away because it's hard. It has to it takes a huge amount of concentrated effort. We've heard this in other places, but Zach's heard it. It's focused intensity. We have to focus that intensity. We can be intense all over the place, but when we focus it, that's when we start to be able to move things. So it has to be very intentional, and it'll never be enough. I envision myself as, if the Lord lets me live that long, is to be this old guy that's walking around mumbling about, about the kingdom, because the closer I get to it, the more I should be like Christ. Not mumbling, because Christ didn't mumble, but no matter how long he leaves us here, I don't think we should ever feel like we've arrived at that relationship. So it'll never be good enough. So when I look back, I see where I could have been more. And as I look forward, I anticipate more urgency around that.
Good.
Yeah.
So I imagine it's got to be difficult trying to juggle like running a successful business. I mean, you're the top of the company and trying to balance family, discipling. It's just that, I guess it goes back to that focused intensity, right? I mean, how do you juggle all those things and still?
Well, I think we're talking about discipleship. So yeah, it's, I don't do that. These guys do that. They share with that. I can't do all that. There's this thing called the clock and the rotation of the earth so I would just challenge all of us to realize, I've heard this my whole life. How do we, the work-life balance? And that's something that's, I remember as a young person saying, how do I figure that out? Well, you're not going to manage time. The clock spins, the earth rotates, and you can't manage time, but you can manage yourself within that time. And to me, that's I know that doesn't make sense to some people, or maybe that's not clear, but for me, it's very clear. I am responsible for my time, the time God has given me. So to get to the cut really close here, do the things that only I can do and delegate and equip others to do the things that I might be able to do, but they can do them. And the reality is when we do that, we start multiplying. And people like Zach do it a whole lot better than I could do in the first place. So you reach a whole lot more. And then when you think about Jesus, he spent 3 years hanging out very intentionally. We talked about focused intensity. And he started something that we're still talking about 2,000 years later. There's this thing that he's God, but yeah, that matters.
Details.
Details matter. But the reality is if we want to be disciple makers, we have to realize that we're not the leading character. We have to realize that. If somehow we start to think that we're the leading character, we're going to take on more than what we can do, and we're going to fail. When we realize that others should be the star of the show, we're going to equip them with everything we can. This is all I have. Go, use that. And they start growing, and they start growing other people. Just for a very basic thing, I don't know when the last time when I taught somebody how to fit up a beam. Probably 10 years ago, maybe more. The reality is they wouldn't let me do it because I wouldn't be able to do it nearly as well. Even at my best, I'm not. So I just took what little I had and poured it into people. And God multiplied that because we do try to find people who want to be multiplied. If they don't want to be, I don't know that we should be wasting our precious resources on people who don't want to be growing.
Yeah. I don't know where I had a question. Now I just totally lost it. Okay. It'll be an end question because it doesn't make sense in this spot.
Okay.
I'll remember it.
So you talked about Zach and how, what are some of the fruits that you've seen from discipling through your business?
Well, it would be is that, this vision has grown beyond it's grown beyond my own vision, and it's gotten better. It's gotten bigger, because of other people have caught that vision. And it's not my vision. It's God's vision for us as human beings. So I haven't done anything special. Anything that has been done is just obedience. That's all it is. So the fruits of that is just seeing other people like catch it and go do bigger and better things than I could ever do. And it's multiplied. I love addition. I like taking things and adding them. But you know what's so much better than that is multiplication. And so that's the fruits of it. If we're going to talk about volume and all that, and it's never about that, but we have the opportunity to reach more than a few. And I have, over the period of the last 12, 15, 17 years, seen incredible lives of hopelessness, lives of not really knowing how to be a man. And you just get around them, and it's amazing. If you just study I think it's in India, where there's these young bull elephants. You heard this story?
No.
You'll have to fact check it, and I know Zach will. But
Amos, you're on it.
there's a story about young bull elephants that get it separated from the herd because they're at that age where they want to breed, and they get pushed out because they're not big enough. And so this tribe of young bull elephants doing what young men do. They're a gang, but they're huge. So they're very destructive, and they go just destroy villages of people's houses. So what the people did, the humans did, they realized that these young bull elephants needed an old bull. So what they would do, and I don't know how they did it, but they would somehow get one of the older bulls that had been ran out as well, because he was too old, but he was full of wisdom. And they would somehow bring this old bull into the herd of the young bulls. And that was the only thing that would be able to keep, because he would help them not be destructive. And I think, young men are that way too. Young men need older men in their lives.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
And so maybe just being an older person that's lived a while means something. So don't.
So that old bull was discipling the younger
Absolutely.
bulls, right?
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Can I speak into that question just a little bit? So I might be able to answer it from a different perspective, because Arlan might not want to toot his own horn on the impact that
No, I think that'd be good.
discipling others has made. But the last several years, our family has, and it's been, Brittany started this, but made a tradition on Thanksgiving of putting a pumpkin on the dining room table. And
Sounds like a pagan tradition. No, I'm joking.
And every dinner time, all right, what are we all thankful for? And we'll do that through the whole month of November. And ever since we started the tradition a couple years ago, several years ago, what is interesting is that someone has written Steel Tech on the pumpkin. And not you, but kids, or usually Brittany. And as a person who's worked other jobs before, it is good comfort for me knowing that my wife has bought into the line of work that I'm doing. That not even that she's like, yeah, we need a paycheck, and Steel Tech does that, but to the degree that she's like, yeah, Steel Tech has made such an impact on our life by pouring into me, so I'm just more skilled at leading the household, that she's actually thankful for the company itself. And just to be clear for people who are listening, it's not because Steel Tech is a easier job than other jobs. I'm working comparable hours to where I would have worked otherwise, which is sometimes it's 40, sometimes it's more. But so it's not to say it's she's like, oh, this is so much easier, that kind of thing. It's just that Steel Tech has poured into me in a way that I'm better able to lead the household. So there would be some of the impact that this kind of ministry makes.
I like that.
Yeah. My question was actually question number 5.
Oh,
so that's why I didn't end up asking it.
Yeah. So what advice would you give to new entrepreneurs?
Yeah.
I think we're all at different levels of entrepreneurship.
Yeah. Well, even that, if you don't mind, like just thinking about people hearing your vision of discipleship.
Yeah.
And they're like, wow, I've kind of been focusing on the wrong thing. Maybe I have been chasing money, but you just opened up my eyes to see a greater vision, a greater ministry, that the Lord has blessed me with this business, and now I can go out and multiply and make disciples. How does somebody start that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think number one is you have to realize that if you don't have a purpose worth getting up for and doing really hard things, it's probably not going to be successful. It is hard, and number one is I just absolutely love small businesses. It's so much fun to watch, because I know the struggle, the insecurities that we all feel. Am I able to do this? I've had every one of those. But man, if you were just gonna go start something, you better have a purpose that's bigger than yourself, and it better be bigger than money, because there will be times when the money's not there and you'll quit. But if it's something worth doing in life, worth giving, you all are younger. The older I get, the more I realize that every year is so incredibly precious. Don't give your life to something that's not worth giving all of it. So don't walk in passively, walk in passionately, and have a purpose that's worth doing hard things for. Anything that, our society today just glorifies the easy, and sometimes hides the difficult deceitfully. So recognize it's going to be hard. It's going to be harder than what you thought, and have a purpose that is bigger than you. And if you don't, just do it. Have it as a job. Just be aware of that. There's nothing wrong with just having a job that you call your business, but be really clear, because if it's just a job that you're earning a paycheck from, even if it's your own business, I think just being clear that that's all it is right now, just be clear about that in your mind, because the worst thing is thinking you're doing something that's your heart's not in line with your head.
Yeah.
That is a bad place to be. I've seen people do it. Just make sure it's a calling. I don't think God calls us to do things halfway.
Absolutely. Yeah.
He didn't just create the world halfway and leave. He created it and he made all things good.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, just want to highlight that. Recognize it's going to be harder than you think.
Absolutely.
I like that.
Yeah. So, kind of last question I have, unless you guys have other.
No.
How do we turn the world? The theme of our podcast is turning the world upside down by the Lordship of Christ. How do we turn the world upside down with what we're talking about, discipling through business?
yeah, that's what it's really all about.
Yeah.
It's another platform that God lets us use to touch people. We get to touch our vendors, our business neighbors, our customers, and we really get to spend time and focus on those we work with on a day-to-day basis. So I just think that when Jesus was here, when he started his ministry, he spent time. It wasn't this little flash in the pan. It takes time to spend with people, to get to know people. And when you do that, it really does change lives. My goal is to not only touch, it's not about the volume or the number, because God's in control of that, but every person that I get to meet, I want to lead them with integrity as best I know how. But if we do that with the vision that we have here of eternal success, then it's going to help us really turn the world upside down. And it's going to be done through intentionally and touching people's lives. I have this deep passion for young men of helping them avoid some of the pitfalls I made. And guess what happens? The world gets turned. I may not be able to turn the world upside down, but I can right the world of a lot of individuals. If I can't, but I can point them to the one who can. Let me say it that way. I may not be able to turn the world upside down, but if I can help somebody get to the one who can turn their world right, then ultimately the world will get turned upside down. So hope that makes sense. But I just know that my job is to be faithful in the little things and let the big things be done through his will in my life.
Yeah. It's awesome.
Yeah. I've been at a homeschool conference this weekend, and I was at a class yesterday on, it was what was the guy's name? Hold on. I can't remember the guy's name. I feel bad now. But the class was called Call to Arms, the Guts and Glory of Courageous Fatherhood, which is an awesome name. That class was packed out with a bunch of dudes. But one of the things that he talked about is if you're wanting to change the world, then change fathers, because if you change a single father, that's going to change a family.
Yeah.
And that legacy has been started, right? And that's a lot of what's going on at Steel Tech. There's ladies there too, and we're, hopefully helping them grow and discipling them, that kind of thing. But with men going back and leading their families with a lot of the stuff that we're teaching there, it's that's going to have that world turning over effect, right? Just because they're going to be leading their families in a whole different way. Their kids are going to be led a whole different way than their kids, and the impact just goes on. So changing legacies.
Yeah, if we can somehow get men to go from passive to passionate, then you're going to change everything. And it's not the wife beater, macho, dude that, and it's not this passive little wimp. When we follow Jesus Christ, it can be terrifying. And yet I want to go there because it's hard. And what I see and what I'm inspired by is men rejecting that passivity and looking at hard things and said, I want it. That's what our world is missing right now. So if we want to go change that world, let's equip young men to just stand the way God made them. You don't have to create anything new. Just help them understand that God gave you everything to be this passionate warrior. And it starts in here.
Yeah.
I've got to defeat the things in my life so I can be strong. Defeat the things in my life that are going to call me down. I mean, we're dealing in a world that, according to statistics, vast majority of the men you bump into every day are addicted to pornography or addicted to all kinds of things that just call them down.
Yeah.
So if you want to turn the world upside down, help intentionally equip them and be with them. Nobody beats that overnight. Lord can, but men need men. And we need our wives and that as well. But I am a whole lot better when I know that I have a warrior beside me.
Amen.
Yeah.
Be a warrior and equip other young men to be warriors. And that's kingdom work.
Something that you said that, I don't know, really resonated with me was that this thought of, well, I've heard people say, well, they're going to make their own mistakes, but I feel like it's important to, they don't have to make, like you said, helping them learn from your mistakes. Yeah. They don't have to, young men don't have to make the same mistakes.
So good.
I think the mentality of a lot of people is, well, they're just going to make their own mistakes and they'll learn from that like I did. They don't have to, right? I mean,
Well, it's if you're talking about a young boy that's, a little daredevil and he's riding his bicycle, skinning his knees, it's going to hurt him, but it's probably not going to harm him.
right.
But you're not going to say, hey, just ride out in the street. He'll learn.
Yeah.
No, he won't. It'll kill him.
Yeah.
So we elevate that to young men, young adults, and I don't want them to make those mistakes. There's some little things that they're just going to have to learn how that hurts. But I don't want them making big mistakes.
Yeah.
Because that harms. And I love your way of thinking there, because we shouldn't cede any ground. Like to me, that's retreating. Well, just let him fail. No, that's your brother. He's going to get clobbered. We live in a real world and it's violent.
Yeah.
And we don't talk about that. Our society is just soft. But Satan's not. And he wants your soul, and he wants mine, and he wants yours. And we have to be strong. And God has given us that. And I know I'm a lot stronger when I'm surrounded by tough dudes. And I want to, I want to be called into that manhood, and I want to call others into it. Because I don't want to see dead bodies and say, well, they learned their lesson.
Yeah.
Spiritual failure causes lifelong, even after it's healed, it causes lifelong scars and limps and deformities. That's not okay. We should not be okay with that.
That's good.
Yeah. Well, anything else?
No, I don't have anything else.
That's a great way to end it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you so much, Arlan.
Yeah.
No, it's
This has
really
been,
is my honor.
it's been, I don't know if it's going to be uplifting to anybody else out there, but it was very
Oh,
uplifting to
man.
me.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
Well, anytime I get to hang out with Zach and his friends, it's a good day, because of what we were just saying. I get to hang out with strong men, and that's good.
yeah. Amen.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for watching the 17:6 podcast, where we help you turn the world upside down by the Lordship of Christ. Like us on Facebook. Check us out on YouTube. Yet again, we have TikTok. I have no idea why, but we do have a TikTok. Email us. We're not on Apple Podcast yet. No, we're not. No. Okay, soon. Maybe by the time you watch this, we'll be there. Check it out. Anything else? Did I miss anything?
No, I think you hit all the like buttons and the subscribe
Shares
buttons and the shares and
Notify button.
That's a good button. I don't know. Arlan, do you know any buttons?
I don't. I have an allergy to technology, so
Oh, there you go.
I stay away from it.
Good for you. Good for you.
Awesome.
I'm thankful for those who don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really am.
Okay. Well, that's it.
All right.
That's it.
Good
Yep.
show.
And in.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not going to end, but yeah.
Oh, guys. Thank you again, Arlen.
Yeah, man.
Yes.
That was great.
This was awesome.
Thank you so much.
Well, it's so much fun just to hang out with guys
Yeah.
that have the same purpose.